back on your working life since you got pregnant or became a parent, have coworkers assumed that you're less committed or ambitious? Have you felt judged for not working long hours? All of these experiences are fallout from maternal bias, one of the most powerful forms of bias against working women. When women have kids, many people assume we've suddenly become less competent and less committed to our careers. This is because of deeply ingrained gender stereotypes. Now, a lot of people still associate mothers with home and family, and they assume, consciously or unconsciously, that moms aren't invested in work and would rather be home with their kids.
People have made assumptions about my commitment, my availability, or even my willingness to take on more responsibility.
I have experienced somebody making the decision for me, thinking because I'm a working mom that I can't do certain things, be it certain trips, certain events, certain meetings, certain abilities.
To be clear, these stereotypes about working mothers, they're false. In fact, research shows that on average, women become slightly more interested in career advancements after they have kids. But maternal bias still has a huge impact because mothers are even more likely than other women to be seen as less competent and ambitious. We're less likely to be hired and promoted. And the good news is that there are research-backed strategies that can help reduce the effects of maternal bias on your career. So here are a few of the most important steps you can take. First of all, keep reminding your manager and colleagues that you're committed to your career. Keep expressing interest in promotions and stretch assignments. If someone implies that, well, you're probably going to leave or cut back at work to spend more time with your kids, tell them explicitly, that's not your plan. For example, you could say something like, yes, I love my kids, but I also love my job. Do this at every stage of your parenting journey, starting with pregnancy, since research shows that maternal bias kicks in as soon as colleagues think a woman is considering having a child.
Many of my colleagues just naturally assumed that I wouldn't want a promotion or I wouldn't want to work where I needed to travel a lot or take up big assignments. But it was at that time that I spoke up directly about this, explaining that I was committed and I was ambitious. Because I feel you have to confront the assumptions.
We had a lot of traveling, but I was not picked. So the first time they pick a man, the second time the same, I talked to my manager. I say, look, I would really like to be the next to travel. And he said, well, you are a mother. I don't want to complicate your life. And I said, look, don't worry about me and my personal life. I have a very good team at home. And I really want to develop myself, my career in this job.
It's also really important to make your achievements visible. This makes it a lot harder for people to question your skills. Share success metrics with your manager on a regular basis and keep your team updated on project milestones. And if you can, take advantage of opportunities to speak about your work at team meetings.
I asked for presenting opportunities, and when these presenting opportunities came, I put my best. Even if I was not ready, I put the extra level of effort required to represent the team.
As much as possible, spend your time on high-profile, high-priority projects. Ask your manager what's most important for success in your role and for your company's success in general. Delegate or deprioritize tasks that don't align with those goals. This can increase your chance you'll be seen as a top performer.
I became very deliberate about asking for tasks that were strategic and important. I also was able to observe opportunities in the team where I could uniquely contribute.
One of the biggest ways maternal bias shows up at work is in something called flexibility stigma. When moms work flexible hours or work from home, we often face unfair doubts about our productivity and commitment. And that's because people assume we're spending time with our kids instead of working. For example, when moms leave work early, colleagues often assume we're on childcare duty. But when dads leave early, colleagues often assume that they're going to a meeting or will keep working when they get home. To counteract flexibility stigma, emphasize the positive impact on your company when you ask for flexible work arrangements. For example, rather than saying, I need to leave early every day to pick up my kids, you could say something like, I'm really invested in our company's success, so I want to propose a schedule change that will make it easier to meet my goals. Now, if your boss pushes back, you may want to explain how you'll maintain your productivity while working flexibly. For example, if you're spending time with your kids in the afternoon, explain that you'll make up that time by working later in the evening. If you're working flexibly, share as much detail about your schedule as you can. Tell your colleagues which hours you plan to work and from where, and update them if something changes. You may also want to let your coworkers know that you have reliable childcare. If colleagues question your need for flexible scheduling, it's okay to push back. Having a manageable schedule benefits your company in the long term by helping you avoid burnout and stay productive.
People scheduled meetings that in which I really needed to be at as the senior leader, and schedule it at a time when my calendar clearly said that I'm picking up kids at this moment. I calmly pushed back, stating that I had a conflict, and I didn't feel ashamed about that.
You can also help to reduce maternal bias by challenging the stereotypical gender roles it's based on. So if you have a partner who's a man, talk to him about doing half of the housework and childcare. In the short term, this will give you more time and energy to focus on proving yourself at work. In the long term, it will help reinforce the idea that women's career ambitions are just as real and important as men's, and that both men and women can be equally committed to family and career.
I was conscious that my husband, when I married again, must be an equal partner. I made sure he knew what I wanted to achieve, and he was fully supportive. In fact, whenever I traveled on work assignments, he was happy to be holding the fort at home.
Finally, if you're about to return to work after welcoming a new child, make a plan to do it strategically. You might feel like you need to prove yourself by jumping right back into your old schedule and workload. But that's likely to be really overwhelming, and it can ultimately lead to burnout. It's okay to take a couple of weeks to adjust. Ask your boss if you can start with a few half days or a short week, and emphasize that a slower on-ramp will set you and your company up for long-term success. And if it takes some time to feel settled into work again, don't let that affect your confidence. It's totally normal. As you navigate these hurdles, keep reminding yourself that being a mom doesn't take away from your knowledge and skills. In fact, having kids has probably given you skills and perspectives that can improve your performance at work. You're a really valuable employee, and you deserve recognition and support.